All right, everybody. Today we're here with Alan McDonald, official intern of Blackbird Brewery. How's it going, Alan?
It's going great.
Good, good.
Yes. I'm the 55-year-old intern. I think they did a movie with Robert De Niro some years ago of him being a retired person going into a completely different field, which is what I'm doing now.
Hey, welcome. You picked a great place to be. We're excited to have you here with us today. Thanks for taking this time out. We just want to find out a lot more about the intern process at Blackbird Brewery. And really the first thing we want to ask you today is just how did you get here? What's your background? What led you into brewing?
So I've always been a craft beer fan. Loved it ever since college. Just the Miller Lights and Coors Lights weren't enough flavor for me. So I would always lean towards more classic craft beer, the higher, thicker IPAs. So over the years, palate has just grown to drink more of those substantial type beers. As far as getting into the craft brewing business, this process started for me in 2019. I retired from a federal law enforcement position after about 22 years.
All right, now don't sugarcoat it for us. We want to hear the nitty gritty. What do you mean by federal law enforcement? I want to hear the full story.
I retired from Secret Service 18 months ago after 22 years. So it was a great career. Spent most of my time in DC, finished off here in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Wow, that's not your typical story. That's not your typical story into brewing. So how did we get from being a Secret Service agent to being a brewer?
Well, I wanted to do something completely different. Most people in my career field, when they retire, they go into private sector security or another form of law enforcement. I just didn't want to do that anymore. I had my fill. Been there, done it. Great career. Excited all the things I got to do. Very appreciative to that agency. It was a great career. But it's time, while I still am young enough to pivot and do something completely different. So in 2019, a couple of homebrewer buddies of mine that I would get together with on a regular basis to homebrew, I asked them if they'd be interested in partnering up and maybe opening a brewery themselves one day. They agreed, and I said, well, look, I'll work on it. I'll figure out what we need to do and how to get started. And so my journey began in 2019.
Wow. Okay, so you decided to open a brewery in 2019. So right now we're at 2023. What's been going on since then?
Okay, so my first thought was, hey, I'm going to be more of the business side, in which I still am going to be more of the general manager of the brewery. So I started with UNC Charlotte. They have a nice brewery management course there. Along with that, I went to every possible seminar that the Brewers Guild would put on here in North Carolina. I started going to the craft conference in Winston-Salem every November, and would gather every piece of information I could possibly gather. At one point, my brewer buddies were like, hey, you really need to know how to brew and brew well. So I said, be careful what you wish for, because I do everything at about 100% and full gas. So I bought all the equipment, started brewing myself, experimenting with different recipes, and then I started taking the Wait Tech classes. Took the commercial brewing class at Wait Tech, took the lab class at Wait Tech, and now I'm finishing up with the internship.
All right. So how'd you land this job?
So I was looking around for a brewery to work at that was basically what we were trying to do, our brewery that's going to be in Southport, North Carolina. We have the same size facility. It's about 4,000 square feet with a nice outdoor yard space that will turn into a beer garden. I wanted someone that's focused more on the brewing and tap room, that wasn't part restaurant. And the benefit is they're a mile down the road from my house.
Right, can't beat proximity,
can't
right?
beat proximity. And then I had found out about Ian and his experience from White Street to Lone Rider to R&D, and my partners knew Ian back from White Street, and they told me that this guy has so much experience, he would be a perfect mentor for you to value and push our project forward even more. So I came in here and may have stalked Harmony a little bit, in the first month.
You wouldn't be the first one to stalk Harmony, but
Right.
maybe the nicest.
Thank you. So Harmony, I think a couple meetings I had with Harmony, she finally said, "Hey, are you available Tuesday morning? I got a lot of inventory I need to get done." And I'm like, "I'm here." So I knew once I got here, I would never leave, and I've enjoyed myself thoroughly. So appreciative to Harmony and Ian for this opportunity and the mentorship that they're given to me. It's been fantastic.
That's really cool of you to say. What would you, obviously I know you're grateful to be here, but what would you say up to this point, what's the most valuable thing you've learned? It doesn't have to be one thing, if it's a couple of things,
This is a lot more work than what people think. It's very physical. To be a good brewer, it's going from home brewing to professional brewing is leaps and bounds. I think that's one of the biggest things I've taken away, is that to become a professional brewer, you have to be a lot more technical and proficient in your knowledge. And I think it's not something that everybody can do.
Yeah, that's an important takeaway, especially before you take on this venture, or have you already taken on the venture? How's your brewery coming along?
We are almost finished with the design. The structural engineers are just finishing up their piece. We hired a fantastic architect out of San Diego, Hauk Architects, and all they do is focus on breweries.
Oh, that's great.
So in the very beginning part of trying to design this brewery, his knowledge and experience of where equipment needs to be laid out and how this brewery should be laid out was extremely valuable. Now that I'm spending some time here with Ian and Harmony, I'm seeing more how that layout, goes forward, and how I understand it more now.
Yeah, how it makes or breaks your processes, right? Yeah,
exactly. And I'm learning a few things. I'm like, these outlets should be here. These electrical outlets should be here because, the portable pump, you want to be able to access your fermenters and your bright tanks easily. So that's kind of a few things.
Well, tell us the name of your brewery, where it's going to be, when we can expect to be drinking your beers.
Well, Cape Side Brewing out of Southport, North Carolina.
All right.
Currently, we're looking at either being a 7-barrel or a 10-barrel brew house. It's going to be a lot same size as Blackbird, 4,000 square feet, with a quarter-acre beer garden in the back.
All right.
And it'll be right in downtown Southport, North Carolina.
And what's your projected beer drinking consumption date?
Well, I hope that we can get construction going this year.
Okay.
If we can, by this fall or late fall, get construction going, we're looking at a 9 to 12 month build.
Okay. Yeah, that's good enough for us. Sometime late 2024, early 2025.
Yeah.
Something along those lines. We know there's a lot that can go unexpected, and
Sure.
certainly for sure. What are you the most excited about with starting your own brewery, and what are you the most not excited about?
I'm excited about trying to create as interesting types of beers and being as creative as I possibly can. I'm excited about somewhat being my own boss.
Yeah.
I'm excited about the partners that I have and getting to work with them. They're good friends, and I hope this process strengthens that friendship and not weakens it.
Oh, I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. Well, that sounds great. Is there anything else you wanted to add? You know, I know you had mentioned, just you and I talking on the side, about you're just really surprised by how collaborative the brewery community is. You mentioned to me that, you know, when people ask, they find out you're opening a brewery and that you're interning at Blackbird. That seemed to surprise those people. So let's talk about that just a little bit. Why would people be surprised by that?
I think it's not typical in the business industry, but in the craft brewing industry, collaboration, I think, is a big part of the culture, along with support that breweries give to each other. Even breweries that are like down the road from each other that could be complete competitors. There is a great community here in the craft brewing industry that's very family oriented and collaborative, which that's another thing I'm pretty excited about.
Well, it sounds like you're pretty excited overall. We're excited to have you as part of the Blackbird Brewery team as long as we can. And thank you so much for taking this time out. Alan McDonald, everybody, see him around the brewery. Make sure you stop and say hello. Take care.